Hi, welcome back to part 3 of the 2CV massive weldathon, and in this particular episode there's going to be some welding and some rusting. Not necessarily in that order, but we do manage to at least get the bulkhead sorted out, and we do manage to make a start on the inner wings at the back, but we've still got loads to do. It is a massive amount of work. So that's it. Let's get going. So we've got the panel in. Reasonably neat. So I created a gap and then welded in between, but as you know it's very thin, so it's quite hard to do. So that's kind of in. It needs tidying up. This corner is particularly not pretty. But there we go, not the most fabulous piece of welding in the world, especially not when you've just run out of gas, but there we go, it's in, so you won't see any of that. So I've moved on to the back. So on this side I already had the panels for this, so I've started on this bit. So we've now cut out the hole. You can see on the other side it's particularly bad over there, so I'm going to replace the whole of the inner wing for that, I think. This one was not so bad. There was only a bit of rot down here in this part around here, so I've got a new panel to go in there. There's a bit of rot up here which I'll need to patch in, and then of course we've got this hole here. So I just marked it out, reasonably square cuts of course to make things easier to make. So we've got to make a new inner panel for it. And then attach the new where is it, bump stop piece, this piece, which will sit in here on top of the new panel. So I've got to make a new panel to fit this area first, which has got a rib all the way through it, which is going to be interesting. So we'll give that a go and see what we get. So it's a bit of an experiment here. There's a swaged bead rolled kind of line in the panel, which you can see. So I'm trying to make here. I'm not quite sure how to do this. I don't have a bead roller, which is obviously the answer. So what I've done is I've got the old router out here. And I've routed the same shape into this piece of oak floorboard that I had lying around, and I'm going to clamp a piece of metal to it, and I'm going to knock it in with a hammer and see what sort of shape I can get. Bit of an experiment, and I haven't got a curved router bit, so I've had to use a square bottom, but hopefully the metal won't mind too much. Well, let's give it a go. Right, so I had to route a new one because I realised that I actually had done the wrong side, which got slightly different because they're slightly different lengths. Anyway, so I have started again. So what I'm going to do, I've already tried just knocking it with a hammer and it's just going to make awful lot of dents in it. So I've got this little socket here. I'm going to try and see if I can bang that into it. That will hopefully improve matters. Maybe try and find something that's a bit longer than that. See what I can do. Right, making a start on this. Try how long it's going to take. Going to go along the line. Feels like I need a bigger hammer. Certainly better with a bigger hammer. Starting to get a bend in it now. Let's have a look at it. Doesn't look too bad. That's the side you're going to see. A bit of cleaning up, I think that might work. Before and after. What do you reckon? That'll do. Right, let's try and sharpen some of these edges up. This one's sharp's not too bad, but this bit looks a little bit crinkly. Going to a lot of trouble for something that's just going to be covered up with a bit of carpet, but you know what? It's just nice to get the job done properly, isn't it? You wouldn't want somebody to take all of that carpet off the next time it rusts out and look at and go, ooh, look at the state of that. I'm doing this for the bloke who's going to do it again in 50 years' time. That's probably as good as I'm going to get. If I linish that, I'll probably take out some of those little lumps and bumps that you can see. I'll just go over that. Cool, done on that, I think. So here we go. So the large panel, the large hole, I'm going to do first, and then we'll do the other bit in between. I managed to cut some of that more of that rot out and join the two bits up. So I've just redone the flange there, which was a bit rotten. So now we can move on to getting our new piece into position and get that welded in. That's the next piece. Now, hopefully you can see in this shot we've got the panel in place. There's a slight missing bit down there. We'll come to that shortly when we've worked out this part over here. And I'm using these kind of pins which just have they're like a little, I'll show you. I've got a little slot on one side. So that goes on one side of the panel, that's right on the other side. And then there's a screw on the end, so you put a wing nut onto that. That goes in the middle, and then you push the pin through there, and then you tighten it up like a little mini vise. Very useful for doing these sort of small scale jobs. So the next job is to start doing some tacks. Fun part. So I've got a couple of tacks in, as you can probably see there, just to hold everything in the right place. What I'm trying to really do is to get this bit smooth across here, this way, so as that works all the way around. So that's what I'm using the pins to do. Didn't fit terribly well here. So what I do when it's tight and I can't quite get it to fit so it's nice and parallel on both sides, is to get the angle grinder, go in at an angle with the angle grinder, you know, like that kind of angle, and just slice in between it. And what you find is that the two panels will find their own meeting point, and they'll come together and makes it easy to weld. So it's a neat little trick for just making sure that you get the gaps about right. Okay, let's get welding. So here we go. So I've got all the tacks in place for that. I've got to say it could have been slightly better. So I've got ever such a slight little bow in it. It's not quite straight. I might see if I can sort that out. I've had a little go with the hammer and dolly already, just to make sure I've got all the lines all square, so that everything's nice and parallel for welding it all up. So I may have to just trim these little bits in with a hammer and dolly afterwards, but they should be quite easy to sort out once I've got some weld on there. Okay, I suppose we need to put a few more in now. Hooray! Okay, let me explain what's going on here. So I think the last piece of video that you might have seen was me making the hole to fit this panel in. So and then I've had to make a piece that goes in behind it, because there's a bit of rot in that part. So that's all roughly tacked into place. I've put this was it a C-pillar in as well, line that up. I assume it's supposed to be absolutely bullet straight, so that's what it is right now. As you see, there's not very much for it to go onto down the bottom there, so you know I've got to get onto the front and get the bulkhead sorted out so that I can actually figure out how to fit this sill in and where it fits up here. Although I can see from the new panel that I've got roughly how it works. I'll show you that in a sec. So the bump stop panel is the next bit that I'm going to put in. So like I've done before, I've just made some holes in it, which I'm gonna puddle weld in to form the kind of spot weld. I've just been using some self tappers just to hold it in place to make sure that the panel sits nice and close and flat. So that's the part that I'm just about to do next. So let me show you what came in the post. Ta-da! So after you've seen the amount of farting around that I've been doing with the other inner wing, so for this side, rather than go through all of that pain, which is literally a pain, I'm just going to replace the whole panel. So there's the whole thing. I've still got two floors, the lower part of the bulkhead, these funny triangular bits, and I've got the sills to go on that side. I haven't got the other sill yet; it hasn't arrived. But you can gather from looking at this how the C-pillar fits into that slot. So I need to get that lined up to really check how that works. And I'm assuming the captive nut in the bottom there is for the bottom of the outer wing and how that fits into it. So there we go. I was a bit bemused when I first took it out of the packaging to see there was a big bend in it, because I was pretty sure that they were straight in my head, but no, they're not. So there we go. Concern for nothing. So there we go. That's what the new bits look like. So we're gonna crack on with doing some of that. But first things first, need to get this bit sorted out. And then I think I probably need to have a really good look in this section here, because there's obviously some rot down the bottom there, which I need to repair before I can fit a new sill. So that's going to be fun. Okay, I'll come back to you soon. Do this first. Hi, so we're still doing stuff with the bulkhead at the moment. Let me just show you where I'm up to here, because I'm going to have this bulkhead out soon. We can start looking at putting the new one in. So let me just take you over here so you can see what the new one looks like. So here's the new bulkhead. This comes with more or less all the bits that you need, although there's a strengthener panel here that looks like I'm going to have to take out of the old bulkhead and reuse. It has the extra bit down the bottom there as well. So it seems to have most of the bits. It's got a nice bit of damage here. Someone's put a nice dent in it. I need to make sure I take care of that before I move on. So where are we? So here's my contraption for getting at the bulkhead. My conclusion is we're doing this. I looked at all of this, so I know I've got work to do around the back here, still at the sill. But I can't get into that until I can get the sill off, and until I can get the only way to get the sill off is to be able to have the bulkhead in place so that we can get the new sill back in place afterwards. So yeah, I'm sure you're all dying to see this wonderful contraption I've got. So where I've put the frame in it earlier, so what I've done is to use this old fence post I had lying about, and jacked it up off the chassis in the middle there, because the body doesn't weigh much. So I had to use this scissor jack because it's the only thing I could fit in underneath. And then I've got it on a support on each end, sitting on the outside. Okay. sitting on the outside, so that that's taking the weight of the car at the front here. So I'm currently in two minds about what I'm doing with these things. These are called the parafans apparently. So I did buy some new ones, which are over there, along with the bottom of the bulkhead, which I've already cut off. So I'm not sure if I'm going to use the whole thing or not, because actually this panel's really sound, and there's an awful lot of spot welds. Now the bottom of this sill is looking a bit manky, but I've got a new sill, so I'm going to replace that. So I've released the spot welds on the outside here, but some of them are quite difficult to get at. So I've concluded that the best thing to do is to actually just slice with an angle grinder, slice the bottom of the bulkhead off, and then I can get all the spot welds afterwards. Because even though I've got a fair run of them along here, there's some that I can't get at. I think there's probably one under there, for instance, so I've just cut the thing out. So that's pretty much hanging now off that little thread in the middle. In fact, let me just so if we get our little scissors here, we can go. There we are, and the job's done. Oh my god, it packed up right in the middle. No, it didn't. It's okay. The screen went dark there. I thought perhaps it hadn't recorded it. There you go. So that's the bulkhead out. So now we can start working on how we get the whole thing tidied up, so we can get a new piece in. Actually, see, the bottom of this bulkhead was pretty rotten right the way along there, particularly under the accelerator pedal. But you know, it could be worse. It's not so bad. It's interesting. It's got all these little patches all over the bulkhead. I mean, I'm kind of guessing that they just put these patches in to cover up the left-hand drive holes. It's interesting there. I don't know why they did that. See, look, these little square ones here. Look, what's all that about? Don't know. Anybody knows? Please write in the comments. Okay, so the next part is then clean up all of the edges under here, so that we can actually get in there and start getting the new bulkhead in, which hopefully we'll have done today. Right. I changed my mind. So I did start here to just slice off the edge where it's folded over, but then you still got to get the other piece off from underneath. So what I decided was that I'm just going to cut the whole thing off flush. Here's a piece of it. Cut the whole thing off flush, cut these edges off so they're all nice and flush down here. Then I'm going to clean up those surfaces, and then I'll weld through this bit. Essentially, I'm just leaving this bit will just be, you know, one mil or one layer thicker than it would be normally, but it'll just give us a little bit extra to weld to, I guess. So that can't be a bad thing, can it? So if I consider the alternative of the amount of work that would be involved in taking all that off, it's probably not worth it. So I'll get under there with the flat wheel and clean all of that up so that we can have something nice to attach to. It's really, really hot today, and working outside when it's really, really hot or it's raining is bloody unpleasant. Anyway, there we go. Okay, so we're getting ready to prep the new panel, and I spotted that it's missing this hole. It doesn't actually have it, so I'm going to mark that out. So job number one is going to be to cut this hole in the panel, and then we can start making sure everything's lovely and shiny to get welding. I'm just in the process of lining up this panel now. I've got one end in roughly the right place, so I'm going to need to sort the other end out. Take these ear defenders off. It's too hot today for them. Come back. Right, so I think the challenging bit seems to be you've got to get these bits to line up roughly with where the sill's supposed to be. That's the edge of the sill panel, so the floor's got to be in close to that. That is close to that. So that's more or less level with where the end of the sill will be. This there's not much of it in a minute. So hopefully we can just put some clamps in along the top here. Now, it will start to line up. It's really extremely hot to be doing this today. Well through primer on everything. Just to give us a fighting chance against the rust in the future. Looks like that will line up well. Welding shorts on. You can probably hear the wind carrying my temporary garage. It's so hot, I put the cover that I normally just throw over the car, I've just propped it up on a ladder and tied it up against the side of the garage behind me here, just to give me a little bit of shelter. It really is stinking hot today. You can never have enough clamps. Really, you want to be doing stuff like this, you've got to have a really amazing, well spec'd out garage to do it. But we're making do with what we got. That's actually pretty good there. Let's get onto this end. I might have to get in front of the camera a bit. Not quite lined up. Helping it, the car moves every time I try and do something. I've got no brakes at the moment. Oh. God, can you believe it? I don't believe it! Can't get it on now. Not how I want it. Woo. Right. Let's see where we are. So that looks pretty good at the bottom where it meets the sill. That's good. These spot welds seem to miss in quite a lot of places. We've got almost a hit, hit, miss, miss, miss. I don't know why that would be. Looks pretty good from the other side. Maybe they didn't hit them in the factory. It's a possibility. So we're pretty good along here. Just need to catch these bits. Need to be just squished up. But we're pretty good along there, I'd say. Let's go on the other side. And on this side, many more hits. So we've got a few half hits here. don't know if I need to push the panel back that way a bit, or maybe the bend isn't quite right. Mostly there's kind of hits, so it's pretty good. And the sill's not quite so close on this side, so I think I can probably come back in a little bit on this side. I'm going to try. It's hard up against it on the inside of it. You probably can't see because of the light, but the inside of the sill, where it's in a sort of a loop, is hard up against there, but this side doesn't appear to be quite as neat, so maybe it just needs bending into shape. I don't know. I'll have a look at that next. Okay, here we go. So I've done all the puddle welds right the way across the front. That's all done. Put a bit of etch primer on straight away, usual practice. Took some welds in down the side. These were definitely missed, so I drilled them out, but they are definitely missed welds, so I've just whacked a couple in there, just hold it in place. I'm probably going to come back and do this panel again after I've got sills in and so forth, so I'm not trying to be too tidy about it. I just want it to be strong enough that it's not going to move around whilst I'm doing sills and floors. Welded those little brackets in, yeah, so we're all pretty good really. Around the other side is much the same. It's been a stinking hot day here. I'm absolutely melting. So around here, again, I haven't tried to complete the whole thing yet, just tacking it all into place and make sure we've got something good to land on. And there is definitely a bend in here, so that it can be closed up with a bit of a whack there. It's just bent. You can probably tell by looking in there that it's bent. Anyway, there we are. That's today. Well, that's all I'm going to get done today. So we've done really well. Got the bulkhead in. So next it's time to look at sills and floors, getting everything lined up. More tack welding so we can make sure that everything's cool before we go mad on welding everything up solid. So plenty to do still. Interesting and fascinating thing that I've discovered along the way is that the colour code for this car is AC531. I can't remember what that is, what that actually is. It's sort of like a grassy green colour anyway. Fascinating fact though is that the last car that I did, which was the Alpha Sud, which was orange, was AR531.